Hello everyone and welcome back to the EDH Jank Center, your source for everything Commander and everything Jank. I'm your host Jordan or Prairies, and today we got a sweet little deck tech. Let's go. You asked for it, and by you, I literally mean you, Small Waffles. Thank you for the suggestion. And if you're reading the same thing as me, which I think you are, I hope you are, then you will see that today we are going over Ghyrson Starn Kelermorph, who is, I believe, one of the alternate commanders in one of the Warhammer 40k precons. Now, before we dive fully into this multi-armed cutie, I wanted to mention, as always, you can leave suggestions in the comments. They are welcome, and sometimes, like this one, they'll turn into a video. But if you'd like to actively participate in what videos I make next, consider joining the Patreon in the EDH Jank Center Discord, which you get access to at even the lowest level of the Patreon. I will be holding monthly polls in the Discord where you guys get to choose my next video. So if that sounds appealing to you, make sure you check out that link in the description. Otherwise, let's move on. Today we are building a $30 Ghyrson Starn Kelermorph deck. I am not including the price of him himself because he's a very expensive boy. So with Ghyrson Starn and basic lands included, the deck comes out to a total of $39.38. However, if we remove Ghyrson Starn from the mix, the build that I'm presenting to you today only costs in total $26.35. That's $4 for upgrades. You got plenty of room to move there, so let's get into it. Ghyrson Starn reads as follows. Ghyrson Starn Kelermorph, 1 blue-red legendary creature, Tyrannid human from the Warhammer 40k commander decks. It has Ward 2. Whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter it unless that player pays 2. It has 3 auto stubs. Whenever another source you control deals exactly 1 damage to a permanent or player, Ghyrson Starn Kelermorph deals 2 damage to that permanent or player. So this commander is hitting, boys. We've got a 3-drop 3/2 who's a pretty popular creature type who has built-in protection and has a really sick ability. Now, obviously, I wanted to keep this under $30, so I was trying to think, what is out there that is super cheap to play? They come in droves, they're all 1/1s, and what can be viable in red and blue? And then I came across Thopters, baby. Thop. That's right, Thopters are evasive 1/1s, which means they'll deal exactly 1 damage, which Ghyrson Starn loves, and we'll be able to make a bunch of them. You'll see. Let's just get into it. I'm excited. All right, the first card up in our Ghyrson Starn Thopter tribal deck is Loyal Apprentice. 1 and a red creature, human artificer from Commander 2018. It has haste. It has Lieutenant. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control your commander, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. That token gains haste until end of turn, and it's 2/1. So the main strategy of this deck is to make a ton of 1/1 flyers, just swing them in for damage, and have Ghyrson just pop, 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 pop. You know what I mean? With all that extra damage. Thusly, we need cards like Loyal Apprentice that just cough out Thopters every turn as long as we control our commander. We will be protecting our commander a lot, so don't worry about that. We'll get to that later. But this is a nice little Thopter factory, 2/1 hasty guy. You can even swing him in for some early damage if you want to get ahead of the game. And on top of all that, this card is great for being on your mana curve. This card comes out on turn 2. On turn 3, you play Ghyrson. At the beginning of that combat, you start making Thopters, and you can start doing some damage. Okay, let's move on to our next card, which is Whirler Rogue. 2 blue creature, human rogue artificer from Magic Origins. When Whirler Rogue enters the battlefield, put 2 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. Tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. Target creature can't be blocked this turn, and she's a 2/2. So in doing research for this deck tech, I found that there's actually a pretty good amount of cards that on ETB create Thopters, so I put basically all of them in the deck. Whirler Rogue has a pretty cool activated ability where we can get something in for unblockable damage, but what I really wanted to highlight was you could start abusing this ETB ability with cards like Conjurer's Closet or Blur. I didn't include Conjurer's Closet in the deck tech because it didn't fit under the budget. However, if you've got some money, you can definitely buy it for the deck, or you could even take this deck in the Blink direction. Totally up to you, and that's the beauty of deck building, baby. But yeah. This card makes more Thopters, so let's move on. Our next card up is Mercurial Pretender, 4 and a blue creature shapeshifter from Magic 2015. You may have Mercurial Pretender enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature you control, except it gains 2 blue. Return this creature to its owner's hand, and it's a 0/0. So you remember the last thing I said about abusing ETBs and making more Thopters? Well, clones are a great way to do that in blue. Now, obviously, you can do this with instants and sorceries in blue and red. However, this is not a spell slinger deck, folks. Go get your spell slinger deck techs elsewhere. We're doing Thopters today. And for a budget, I thought this was a really fun way to be able to create another copy of cards like Whirler Rogue, for example. And Mercurial Pretender gives us the ability to, if we need to, pay 4 mana and return this to our hand and play it again, create more copies, create more Thopters. You see where I'm going with this. And can we just give it up a second for Izzy's amazing art on this card? I mean, come on, dude. Ugh, I love shapeshifters. Anyways, let's move on. All right, kiddos. Now, this next one requires no laughing. Let's be adults about this. It's Sharding Sphinx. Oh, man. That is very funny. Sharding Sphinx says, 4 blue artifact creature Sphinx from Shards of Alara. Flying. Whenever an artifact creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may put a 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature token with flying into play, and it's a 4/4. I mean, dude, this card speaks for itself. Every single time our Thopters get in for damage, they will be multiplying into more and more Thopters, creating a giant army of flying little helicopter boys. And then as they deal combat damage, we'll be making more Thopters. Ghyrson will be creating lots and lots of damage being dealt to our opponents. And this card is an auto include, 100%. And it has a very funny name. Also, when this Sphinx triggers, you can just say that it's sharded, which is very funny. Okay, this next card is no laughing matter. It's Cavalcade of Calamity, 1 and a red enchantment from Ravnica Allegiance. Whenever a creature you control with power 1 or less attacks, Cavalcade of Calamity deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker that creature is attacking. This was the first card I thought of when I read Ghyrson's ability. Man, this goes amazing in the deck. I meant this goes amazing in the deck. Anyways, this card goes bonkers. Let's say we have 5 Thopters that go ahead and attack. Cavalcade of Calamity will then trigger 5 separate times. And because Cavalcade of Calamity is a permanent that is dealing exactly 1 damage to a player or planeswalker, Ghyrson will turn that into 3 damage. So each Thopter on attack is dealing 3 damage to something. On top of that, assuming we have no blockers in our way, when the Thopters deal their damage, Ghyrson will also trigger. So in this theoretical 5 Thopter combat step, we will be dealing 30 total damage potentially. It's so good! Okay, I'm gonna stop squeaking and talk about the next card, which is Witty Roastmaster. 2 and a red, creature Devil Citizen from Streets of New Capenna. It has Alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Witty Roastmaster deals 1 damage to each opponent, and it's a 3/2. Pretty simple tech here, guys. This is the same as Cavalcade of Calamity, just with a different part of the game. So Witty Roastmaster is gonna trigger and deal exactly 1 damage when our Thopters ETB. Ghyrson will then trigger, dealing even more damage. And what's great about Witty Roastmaster, aside from being very, very funny, is that this card does some group slugging. It deals damage to each opponent. And who doesn't love spreading that love around? Now, that ability on Ghyrson is obviously very sweet, which means people are going to be targeting our commander a lot. And while Ghyrson does have built-in protection, which is great, you can never be too safe. So our next card is Giant's Amulet, 1 blue mana artifact equipment from Kaldheim. When Giant's Amulet enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 and a blue. If you do, create a 4/4 blue giant wizard creature token, then attach Giant's Amulet to it. We don't care about that. Equipped creature gets +0/+1 and this creature has hexproof as long as it's untapped, and it has equipped 2. Write this down. This is an amazing card. For decks that run blue where our commander is just a part of a general overall strategy, we're not really swinging with Ghyrson at all, this is perfect. We're more than likely not going to be swinging with Ghyrson at all in this deck, so this basically just becomes a super cheap Swiftfoot Boots. And Swiftfoot Boots can already be found for under $1, but this is like 10 cents. And thus, I think it is a welcome addition in any protection suite for a blue deck. Speaking of protecting your commander in blue, we've got Bane's Contingency up next. 1 blue instant from Commander Legends, Battle for Baldur's Gate. Counter target spell. If that spell targets a commander you control, instead counter that spell, scry 2, then draw a card. Listen, any deck that runs blue that wants to protect their commander, which is probably most of them, wants to run this 12-cent counter spell. Who doesn't love scrying 2 then drawing a card? I mean, come on. Counter spell? More like dumber spell. get Bane's contingency today. Coming up next, we got Vidalcan Humiliator, 3 in a blue creature, Vidalcan Wizard from Commander 2018. It has Metalcraft. Whenever Vidalcan Humiliator attacks, if you control 3 or more artifacts, creatures your opponents control lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 1/1 until end of turn, and it's a 3/4. This, ladies and gentlemen, is one of our finishers. Basically, we amass an army of Thopters, so we'll have plenty of artifacts to clear that Metalcraft stipulation. Then all that's left to do is swing in with Vidalcan Humiliator. It will turn all of our opponent's creatures into vanilla 1/1s, even their flying blockers, so now they're not flying anymore, allowing us to thop to a win. Also, this card turns Cosmotronic Wave into a board wipe, so I love that. Wowie Maui, it's already the time of the day for our last card of the day. But before we get into that, guys, if you're enjoying this content, consider joining the Patreon. The link is in the description. We got lots of cool benefits for patrons, including a patron-only Discord where we have chats about our favorite cards, decks, deck techs, all sorts of MTG shenanigans going on in the Discord. It's a lot of fun. So if that sounds appealing to you, make sure you check out that link in the description. All your support helps me help make more videos for you guys. All right, let's move on to our last card of the day, which is Cephalid Face Taker, 2 in a blue creature, Cephalid Rogue from Streets of New Capenna Commander. Cephalid Face Taker can't be blocked, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may have Cephalid Face Taker become a copy of another target creature until end of turn, except it's 1/4 and has this creature can't be blocked, and it's a 1/4. I don't know about you guys, but in decks, I always love to have some sort of variability, some adaptability, and I thought Cephalid Face Taker was a really interesting option here. At its least effective, it's an unblockable 1/4 that Ghyrson makes into a 3/4, so that's cool, but I love this May ability that triggers on combat. If we have a problematic creature out on the board, on one of our opponent's boards, I mean, we can use Cephalid Face Taker, make a copy of it, and all of a sudden we've taken their board state down a peg because we now own their Ulamog or whatever it is as well. And just like that, guys, we're at the end of another video. I want to give a huge thank you to Small Waffles for suggesting this idea. I really love this deck, and I'm honestly thinking of putting it into my own personal collection. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed my Thoptery twist on this dope Is It Commander. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and drop down in the comments any suggestions you guys have for me for what deck I should build next. Your suggestion might just be the next video. Also, were there any cards that I missed that you'd put in a Ghyrson Starn Kelermorph deck? I'm always down there in the comments interacting with you guys, so come on down and have a chat with me. Alright guys, that's it for me. I'll see you on the next video.